know, the mighty Apple iPhone and iPod and everything else they make. Heck, we bought an AirBook. Dennis Gibb joins us. Welcome back, Dennis.
Hey, thanks.
How you doing?
Good to be here. Hey, before we get started, I want to do a little shout out here.
You got it.
You know, over at my firm, we've been very lucky here. We've been really busy. We've had a lot of new clients, a lot of work to do for people. And we run a pretty lean staff over there, so we get overwhelmed pretty quickly sometimes. But there's one person who kind of keeps my head in the game all the time, and that's my assistant, Sue Farrell, who always answers the phone promptly. She's always there. Whenever I get wild and crazy, she comes in and kind of calms me down. So thank you, Sue, for all you do.
You know, I met Sue at your office, and she was great, very fun lady to meet. And
18 years at Nordstrom will teach you things.
Yeah, she was fantastic. I remember walked in, you're not only her, but your dog greeted me. It was a very nice, warm place to
well, thank you for that.
Into. Yeah, but this isn't about warm and friendly, is it, Dennis?
This is about blasphemy. This is nothing short of me being blasphemous. Well,
you know, I heard you got a little bit riled up yesterday from the protesters.
I'll tell you, I was downtown when those people were running around, and I'm ashamed to be in the same species as those people. I mean, I just don't understand what earthly good you get out of breaking windows, trashing cars, you know, urinating on the streets and doing all kinds of stuff, and then going up and shooting the mayor's windows out or whatever it was overnight. I mean, this is really going to engender a lot of support for your movement.
Yeah, right. Not exactly the way to go about things.
Well, the one thing I did do to help them, they were surrounding a Wells Fargo bank, and I told them, no, go get Bank of America. They're over there.
Right. Well, you know, Dennis, you actually prayed for rain, and it rained on them.
It
so did. Maybe you had more to do with it than you know. Dennis, okay, let's talk about Apple because, you know, you brought Apple is kind of the new Microsoft, which was the new AOL, which was the new IBM, which was the new, right?
Right.
And I think you have some really, so tell us a little about your thoughts on Apple.
Well, look, I own an iPad. I own an iPhone. I actually met Steve Jobs once. I've had Apple computers over a long time, and I have a lot of respect for the company. I have a lot of respect for what they've done. But as an investor and as a person who tries to steer people out of trouble sometimes, I have to look at this company, and I have to look at the fact that there is a religious fervor about owning Apple computer, which is
as a stock, not the physical computers.
Right. It's crazy. And this company has grown its market capitalization. For those of you in Tukwila, that's the number of shares of stock times the price of the stock. They've
What's wrong with Tukwila?
Well, you ever been there?
It's where you buy furniture.
Yeah.
I'd rather buy our furniture.
Yeah, okay, that's it. Okay. So it's 2 roads and 4,000 furniture stores.
It is a lot. Okay, a lot of furniture stores. There is no doubt there's a lot of furniture.
Oh, there's a Wendy's there too.
Yeah.
Anyway, here comes the Tukwila mayor.
Is there an Apple store?
Probably.
Anyway,
their market cap has grown 40% over the last 5 years. In the next 2 years, if it keeps growing, it will be the first trillion-dollar market cap company in the history of the world. You can't continue to grow that fast. If you do, you'll end up owning the world. So the question is, when is this going to stop and how is it going to stop? And if you talk to the people who are bullish on Apple, they'll tell you this company it's an all-new kind of company. It's executing perfectly. It's got this wonderful management. It's got all these great products and everything else. Yeah. So did Microsoft, so did Oracle, so did Google, so did everybody else. So let's put this thing in perspective. This isn't the first time this has happened. And we had a technology stock back when I was young called Avon, big tech stock. And in 1978,
not the multi-level marketing women's product.
Exactly.
Same thing?
The same one that just got indicted. They at one time, if you'd owned all of the shares of Avon, you could have bought every steel company in the world and still had $1 billion left over. Now, back then, $1 billion was a lot of money. So let's look at where Apple sits in this whole thing. As of Monday's market close, Apple had a market value of $546 billion. Okay, that's a pretty big number. It's got a lot of zeros after the end of it. It's about one day's federal deficit. But anyway, if you owned all of Apple's shares, you could buy all of Microsoft and all of IBM and you'd have $38 billion left over to go to the racetrack with. Or, if you don't like tech stocks, you could own Exxon, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and Petrobras, the Brazilian oil company, and you'd have a mere $100 billion left over.
Wow.
Okay? If it was a state, it would be just behind Illinois and just ahead of Pennsylvania as far as gross domestic product. Its sales at $128 billion make it the 21st largest nation on Earth. Of the 182 recognized by the IMF, it would be the 21st largest country in the world.
That's incredible.
It's amazing. At the rate they're selling iPhones, they will sell more iPhones than are existent in the 7 largest countries in the world right now. I mean, they're selling 38 million of these phones every year. Now, okay, great phone. I admit that. And the iPad's a great product. However, things don't stay up in the air. And what happens is human beings are uniquely subject to popular delusions. And they forget that things can go wrong. So everybody says to me, yeah, but Apple's not a high-tech, it doesn't have a high-tech PE. No, but it's so valuable right now that everybody is in it. Everybody owns this thing. So what happens if someone decides they want to get out of this thing? Well, the door's not big enough. And a lot of this stock is owned by day traders and other people, other forms of lower forms of life. And these guys have the same loyalty to a stock as the Seahawks do to their quarterbacks.
Easy.
Yeah, Charlie Whitehurst, you're the quarterback of the future. Yeah, yeah, right.
Now they got Matt Flynn, and then they go draft another one.
So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Same thing. There's no loyalty out here. What really bothers me is not the day traders. It's the fact that the day traders will give up on this stock and they'll kill the people who really believe in this company. So already people are starting to find out that this Apple, which they think is the vessel of all the hopes of all the millennials out there of a new company and a new wave of the future, what are they doing? Well, they're using some people in Reno to avoid taxes. They're lobbying to change laws. They're doing the same thing that all the horrible companies in the world do. So it's not that different a company, and they do make mistakes. I remember something called the Newton, which Apple came up with. It was a total disaster. They had a thing called the Apple III, the Lisa, and they touted this thing for years. This was going to be the revolution. Yeah.
We had an Apple IIGS or an Apple IIc growing up.
Yeah, I had one of those. And for a long time, when the internet was first going around, you could not receive email on an Apple computer if it had an attachment. You couldn't open the attachments. All you could get was the email, but you could read the text, but you couldn't read what was in it. So companies make mistakes. And I remember Steve Jobs at a conference one time saying, and I shouldn't sell ill of the dead, but whatever. He said at a conference one time, somebody asked him if he was going to put modems in his computers so that computers could talk to one another, or he's going to network them. And he says, I can't see any reason why one computer would ever need to talk to another one. Okay, so, I mean, even great visionaries make mistakes. Somewhere along the line, Steve Jobs was an unalterable genius. He proved it at Pixar, and he proved it at Apple. He started it up. It went bad. He left. It went bad. He came back. He rescued it. It got it going. He did the same. It made Pixar work. He's not there. Those people only occur once. And the people who are running it may be very good, but they're not Steve Jobs. And the company was built around Steve Jobs. And it's become a cult now. And when cults happen, they break up. Every big technology stock. You remember anybody here remember the 1990s when Microsoft was going up, 25% a year and splitting, and everybody was going crazy, and Microsoft here and Microsoft there? Well, look what happened. It ran into a wall. Google ran into a wall. AOL collapsed. They all run into a wall sooner or later. A $500 billion company cannot continue to grow at the rate this thing's been growing. There's a mistake coming. There's something going to happen out here. I can't tell you when, but I'm telling you it's going to happen.
Well, you hit it right on the nose. At some point in time, it can't grow forever.
No.
It can't be everything.
Yeah. I mean, only the U.S. government can be everything, I mean,
they're in everything.
They're in everything, and they're going to try and own everything. And if not, they'll have the IRS take it from you. But
or they'll buy some Apple stock.
Yeah, I love that bumper sticker that says "Don't steal. The government hates competition." But anyway, Apple just can't get that big. I mean, it's got $100 billion in cash. That's got to slow down their rate of return because you can't get the same return on cash today that you can by selling products. It's got a huge profit margin. And one of the basic rules of economics and business is when a company has an outsized profit margin, others will find a way to reduce that profit margin. Now, I have seen and talked to some people who are at Microsoft who are involved with this Nook thing. The Nook has 27% of the ebook market. Its market share is actually almost the same size as Apple's, just behind the Kindle. The Kindle Fire is doing extremely well. Microsoft is coming with with Windows 8. They have a series of phones that are attached to that, and a tablet that I've seen some pictures of. And if what I'm hearing from the tech gurus is this thing is going to be a viable competitor to the iPad because it is seamless with Office. So you'll be able to just take your Office with you as you go. Apple doesn't have that.
We're here with Dennis Gibb with Sweetwater Investments. Dennis, just I think you make an interesting point because when you think about Apple, and you said, well, they didn't allow attachments to come through email. I think one of their biggest problems is it is a cult. But what's happened is if you typically use Word, and I would say almost everybody uses Microsoft in their office place. It does not translate very well when you go over to an Apple. And then when you think about the fact that they don't allow Adobe Flash to play on everything is in Flash. Half the websites don't work. So it would be it'll be really interesting to see if eventually, even if they're not $500 billion companies, but each one of these smaller slices of the pie can either change what Apple does or, as you said, start to take over a little bit of that share.
Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to build an ecosystem, which is Apple. And one of the things that was very interesting was in the first quarter report that was meeting with Verizon. Verizon made the statement that they are actively seeking a third ecosystem of phones. So you've got Microsoft is out there number 3. That's the one that they're hoping to develop. Then you got Apple, and then you got the Android product. So if these carriers start getting behind this, and the reason they're going to do this is because, yes, Apple's a cash cow from them, but they don't want to have their whole business dependent upon Apple. So it makes sense for them to diversify, just like you're supposed to do with your portfolio, folks, is diversify, reduce risk. And if you're overweighted in Apple, you may have some problems at some point.
Well, it's all good information, and it gives a little bit of insight into the future. When we come back, a lot of people look into the future, but some people don't look so far as to when they die and what happens to the people that they surround themselves with, the most important people to them. John Hugg's going to join us. We're going to talk a little bit about that estate plan and what it can really mean for the people around you, or what it can mean even worse if you don't have something set out. My name is Ben Brash, and that was Dennis Gibb. You're listening to Brashenomics.